Okay. All right, good evening. It is now 7 o'clock, and I would like to call the meeting to order for the North Fair Oaks Council meeting. Can we please have a roll call?
Commencing roll call now. Vice Chair George Salmon.
Here.
Councilmember Kathleen Daly.
Here.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez. Councilmember Brooks Esser.
Here.
Councilmember Blair Whitney. Councilmember Kelly Parisi. Councilmember Beatrice Orozco.
Here.
Chair Juan Carlos Prado.
Present.
Thank you.
Just a quick announcement. We do have an interpreter joining us this evening in the back. If you'd like to listen to the meeting in Spanish, please use the headsets we could provide in the check-in table. We would now like to move on to public comment. Does anyone have a public comment on a topic that is not in the agenda? So if you're here to talk about something that's not in the agenda, you may step up to the microphone and address the council for 2 minutes.
So we do have a speaker slip submitted. I'd like to call Niket Cersei for public comment. You may have 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening. It's really interesting to be back on this side of the microphone. It's been a while, so I just wanted to, say thank you to everybody. As you all know, I've stepped down from my position on the council. It has been an honor to serve on this council, and I've really appreciated the opportunities. I've learned quite a bit about the different workings of the government, different ways of things have gone through. I'm really proud to work with all of you to push several of the changes for the improvements thereof. That being said, I'm still in the area. We have been here for 15 years, so I do expect to still stay connected to the community, and I hope to keep seeing everybody around. Yes, I'm still here for the trees. I'm still here to help everybody there and keep things working on. But again, just wanted to spend this time to say thank you again and really appreciate the time that I was able to spend and serve, and look forward to all the great things that you'll be doing over the next several years. Thank you.
Thank you, Niket.
Thank you, Niket. We do not have any more public comment slips or online. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, not having any more speaker cards for items not in the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion approved.
Okay. We will now move on to the first item of business, agenda item number 4, recommendation off-street parking exception permit 3041 Glendale Avenue from Planning and Building Department.
Good evening, members of the committee. My name is Jonathan Bruns, and I am from the Planning and Building Department. I'm here to give a short presentation on an off-street parking exception here in North Fair Oaks. Project address is at 3041 Glendale Avenue. The APN assessor parcel number is 060261100. The file number for this project is PLN 2024-00139. Next slide, please. This project is proposing to allow for the continued use of a single car garage where a 2-car or 2 covered off-street parking spots would be required for a single family house that has 2 or more bedrooms. This project is associated with a building permit, BLD 2024-00131 for the interior remodel of the existing single family house. This is where a room was converted into a bedroom, which triggered a planning department review for parking. Hence why we are here with the permit exception request. The proposal and the associated building project does not affect the square footage of the house. This project is not increasing the size of the house or changing its footprint. It is simply that the house has a existing single car garage, and the conversion into a new bedroom where it would require a second covered off-street parking spot. Next slide, please. This is simply just to give a little bit of context for where it is. The property is in the yellow box. Should be just over a 500-foot view from where it is. It's at the intersection for Glendale Avenue. Next slide, please. This is a screenshot taken from Google Street View, just showing the existing situation there. There's a large driveway there that would be able to accommodate off-street parking, but it would just be uncovered. Next slide. Oh, it's a little hard to see on the background that y'all have. These are side-by-sides of the approved floor plans and an existing, or in the proposed floor plans. The key difference here is that there's a living room or dining room in the approved plan set that is proposed to be converted into a bedroom. Again, that's just what is triggering the planning department's permit requirement for a review, since there's not a second covered parking stall. Next slide. So there's not sufficient room on this property to require that a second covered parking spot be put on there. Nominally, this would be a two-car garage, an attached two-car garage, where right now there's existing one. Back when much of this area was developed, the houses were built with one or two or three bedrooms and just a one-car garage. That's just how they did things back then. Today's standards would require two off-street covered parking spots for any house that has two or more bedrooms. There's just not enough space on this property to do that very well. There is an oversized driveway on this lot, which would be able to accommodate an off-street parking, simply uncovered. I believe right now the property does do that, so we're just asking that that situation be continued. This exception would not cause undue harm to the neighborhood. It complies with the policy 5 for the North Fair Oaks Community Plan for parking that would allow for minor changes to existing single-family housing that would need additional parking or something like that, where this exception can be applied for by anyone with a similar situation. This would not be granting a special condition. Next slide. This is just another plan, another page reiterating sort of what I said. This zone is S73. It's a 5,000 minimum square foot parcel size. The existing structure on there is legal non-conforming. Basically, that's all just saying that it was built at a time before the current standards that I have. Again, this is about the single car garage versus the two-car garage that we would require a house now. Next slide. It is recommended that the North Fair Oaks Community Council provide a recommendation to the Director of Planning and Building on the proposed off-street parking exception to allow for the continued use of a one-car garage where two covered off-street parking spaces are required. Next. That's my presentation. Forgive me if I was raspy or a little difficult to understand there. I will take any questions that y'all have.
Thank you. You did great. Are there any questions from the council's members? George?
You mentioned this was part of a remodel. What I couldn't really see the new layout plan. Is the part of the remodel encompassing existing garage space to turn into living space?
No, thank you for bringing that up. I should have mentioned that in the general thing. The garage existing right now is not being touched or altered in this plan. It is all just the normal living space.
I think I heard you say they're adding the bedroom.
They are converting an existing, I believe it's a living room or dining room area into a bedroom.
And what's happening with that other living room itself? Is that being moved somewhere else, or is that it's not existent?
I don't believe it's being moved. I think it's simply just going away. I do have the property owner here if you would. you can talk.
The house, when I moved into the house, the original owners had made an addition and an add-on, a few years ago. I don't know how many years ago. I don't remember off the top of my head. But the layout kind of created a second dining room. And the dining room that I'm using now is like the one in the hallway, like here. So this is the,
I believe it.
Yeah, we
It's okay.
so I'm using the hallway as my dining room, and I'm removing the dining room that's kind of like what I was using as like, the exit, what I'm using as my bedroom. Now the master bedroom.
Was this a recent purchase you did, or have you been here?
I've been here for about a year. I purchased the house back in 2022. So the remodel was probably done.
Square footage is staying the same, it's just the internal.
Everything is the same. The only thing is that the code,
It's no big deal.
we use the same floor plan, everything. We never extended the exterior of the building or anything like that. It just triggered a code because I took away the dining room. and made it work.
I get it. Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, no lot coverage expansion, no floor area expansion.
I have no other questions.
Ever? Yeah, Ever?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the neighbors were notified, and if there was any feedback.
Yes, last year, I believe it was June, I sent out a notice mailing 300 feet radius for all neighbors to comment. I did not receive any comments in support or against the project.
Thank you.
As well, notice for this project for this meeting was also sent out in English and Spanish in a 300-foot radius, again, 10 calendar days before this meeting.
Brooks, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I did. A couple of, yes, it is. Excuse me. Couple of things. The remodel is actually done,
I live there now, so.
but you've done the remodel, is that?
Yeah,
Okay, congratulations, because we just finished one of those about a year ago, so I have some appreciation for what you went through in doing the full interior like that. My only other point was it appears that the driveway can actually handle 2 cars, so any concerns from the neighbors or the community about, maybe more people living in the house bringing cars in, it appears to me that you could actually put 2 cars side by side in that driveway. So that's, of all of the ones that we've seen where this is an issue, and it is because we have a lot of 2-bedroom houses in the community. The ones that are easy for me to approve are the ones where you could actually do side by side parking in addition to having the covered garage. So that's great. Thank you.
Any other council members? Kathleen?
No question, just comment. Is it okay?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for putting one more bedroom, either for a family member. We need places for people to sleep in this community, so thank you for that.
George?
You mentioned the remodel's already been completed. Why did it trigger a permit issue now if it's already been done?
so it kind of like went backwards a little bit.
I don't know the exact history behind it. There was some sort of code violation that came into the code compliance office. Forgive me that I don't have that violation number with me. But it triggered the need for the building department to get involved and approve or after the fact, approve the remodel. As part of that check, I guess, it goes out to other reviewing agencies, of which planning is one of them. When the original planner looked at what was happening, they saw that one of the conversions was to a new bedroom. any change to a bedroom like that triggers planning to look into, is there enough parking on site already? If this property had existing a two-car garage, we just said no harm, no foul, we're good. But since that's not the case, it triggered the need for this, and we're here now.
Okay, thank you for answering.
Are there any questions or comments from any council members? No? Are there any public comments regarding this specific agenda item?
We have no speaker slip submitted and no one online, so no public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, having no comments from the council or from the public regarding this specific item, can I have a motion for this item? This is an action item.
Motion to approve the off-street parking exception permit at 3041 Glendale Avenue.
Second.
Can we have a vote? Roll call. Clerk, roll call.
Vice Chair George Salmon. Councilmember Kathleen Daly.
Approve.
Councilmember Ever Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks Esser.
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly Parisi. Councilmember Beatrice Orozco. Chair Juan Carlos Prado.
Approved.
Motion approves.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item number 5. Discussion of safety concerns, traffic accidents, and ways to address traffic safety on Fair Oaks Avenue, particularly but not exclusive between Second Avenue and Fifth Avenue. We have the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office represented here, and the California Highway Patrol Office also joining us this evening. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Welcome, members of the council. My name is Frank Del Porto. I'm a captain with the Sheriff's Office. I oversee the headquarters division, which also includes, the North Fair Oaks community. I'm here tonight to talk about the traffic concerns between or on Fair Oaks between 2nd and 5th Avenue, and I have some stats for you. But before I share that, I wanted to introduce the new captain for the Redwood City area. So I'll let him come up and introduce himself.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank, and thank you, council members, for having me tonight. My name is Patrick Etzbarn. I'm the new Redwood City area captain for the CHP. I'm happy to be here. I just promoted here about 2 weeks ago. So I'm excited to be in the area. I'm new to the Redwood City Bay Area. I come from the Central Valley. You know, from what I gathered and the information that I have for the problem location, Fair Oaks between 2nd and 5th Avenue, I looked at the data and tried to analyze the data of the problem area. It looks like all traffic collisions or traffic crashes in 2024, we had 3 total that the CHP investigated. And of those 3, 2 of the 3 happened on a Friday night during the evening hours. The other one was on a Sunday early morning hours. That's a little bit of a trend, as obviously Friday night, more than likely there's more traffic, pedestrian traffic, a concern. But that's the stats I have right now in front of me. Obviously, my biggest asset that I have, one of the biggest assets to my area, obviously, is not only my officers doing enforcement campaigns, but the educational programs. I have a great public information officer, Sophie Liu, who puts out a lot of good information on our social media platforms that through the department is how we save lives ultimately, not only through our enforcement aspects, but our educational aspects for our social media platforms. I don't want to steal thunder, but go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so for the just for our stats, for the Sheriff's Office stats, we ran stats for the entire year of 2024. As far as so first I'll cover citations. We've issued 304 citations in that area in the last year. 0 citations were issued for speeding. And when I say citations, that's, all citations, parking citations, moving violations and non-moving violations. And accidents, we've responded to 6 accidents last year. So the sheriff's office does not handle traffic collisions. We don't take the reports. So you just heard the CHP captain said that they took 3 reports. But we did respond to 6. So that just means 3 of those collisions that the sheriff's office responded to, we didn't have to take a report for whatever reason. It was an exchange of information usually is what happened. And then we also have Tim Chang here. Did I see that right, Chang? Yeah. So he's with the Department of Public Works, and I was hoping he can go over just some of our next steps of how to address the traffic issues on Fair Oaks.
Good evening. My name is Tim Chang. I'm with the county in Public Works in the road operations section. My team manages any traffic related programs such as the neighborhood traffic management program to address speeding issues. We also do studies for stop sign warrants. And so I know we're here for speeding. What I would recommend is we go through this program. I have the 7 steps here. I also have stop sign information. I'm kind of not sure if you guys are already leaning a certain way, whether it be to install stop signs or traffic calming such as speed bumps. So in order for us to go through this process, let me grab my notes here. There's 7 different steps. The first is the initial request and the petition. We would require a resident of Fair Oaks Avenue to submit a petition, including signatures of nearby residents. Following this petition, the county Public Works, the traffic engineering team would conduct a traffic study. What we're looking specifically for here is the 85th percentile speed to be over 32 miles per hour. 85th percentile speed just means the speed at which 85% of all the vehicles on that street are traveling at or below. Essentially, anyone traveling over the 85th percentile speed, they're traveling over a speed that is safe for the road. Secondly, after that 32 mile per hour criteria is met, we also require approval from CHP, the sheriff's office, and the fire department, because putting in speed humps will impact response times. The third step is the neighborhood survey. The people that are most impacted by installation of speed humps or traffic calming would be the residents directly along Fair Oaks Avenue. And so we would send out a survey after a notification letter to all of these residents. At this time, we would require a majority of all of the surveys to be responded to for it to move forward. And of all the survey responses that we receive, there also has to be a majority, 51% of those surveys be in support of the traffic calming devices. At the next step, 4, we have to go to the Board of Supervisors for approval. There is a fee per traffic calming device. It is $400. Our team will do the design of the traffic calming measures, and then lastly, the construction of the traffic calming devices. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any council members that have any questions either to the 2 officers or gentleman here presenting from Public Works? Ever?
Yeah, thank you all for coming out tonight. You mentioned a fee of $400 for the permit.
That is correct.
And is this something that the person that originates the request or the claim has to pay, or who pays that?
That's a great question. So typically the person that initiates the request is the project champion or the project coordinator, and they would be responsible for rallying the neighborhood or the people impacted by the traffic calming devices, and they would ensure that $400 per device that budget is managed and they submit it to the county.
Thank you. My next question is, does Department of Public Works consider changing areas? Like in this case, for example, the Círculo Cultural moved into a new office building that is right on Middlefield Road at Second Avenue. And so that they have a lot of customers that come in and out, you know, all day long. Prior to that, it wasn't anything related to, you know, people coming in and out. So considering that brings a lot more pedestrians and cyclists, is that something that DPW considers ever to, I don't know, put like a stop sign or a bump on the road or something?
That is a great question. When we're talking about stop sign warrants, when we analyze whether an intersection requires stop signs, we do consider the number of vehicles, the pedestrian usage, bicycle usage, that's all included. When we're talking about traffic calming, we're looking mostly to lower the travel speeds of the vehicles going through, because you lower the speeds, you provide a safer road for the bicyclists and the pedestrians. So it depends on what we're talking about, but it is included in the study that our team does.
So in this case, it would also require somebody having a petition for maybe a stop sign, I guess.
Right, so the stop sign, it's different. There's no program for a stop sign. Typically, a stop sign for an intersection to be evaluated for a stop sign, it's just a request submitted to the county, and the county conducts a traffic study. There's a warrant that we conduct. It's all throughout California. It has to meet certain criteria. Certain number of accidents that were reported at the intersection that would be mitigated by if a stop sign was there, that the accident wouldn't happen. The number of vehicles going through the intersection from both the major street and the minor street. And if those criteria are met, then we can put in either a two-way stop or an all-way stop. There's different criteria for both.
Thank you.
Kathleen?
Couple of things. Of the 304 citations, do we know the breakdown of those? What was speeding? What was?
Yeah, I asked the same question. I guess it's basically a list of every citation that we've written in a vehicle code section.
Got it. Okay.
So no, I don't know the exact breakdown. I could dive deeper into it. It's just, you know, time consuming.
Okay. My next question, does the county have, or does the sheriff have the sort of mobile signs that if when you drive by, it'll tell you what your speed is? And then what is I'm not a fan of people paying violations, but I know how bad Fair Oaks is as a speed.
To tell you the truth, I know Department of Public Works has some, and we have some, you know, that Portola Valley owns, and Woodside and San Carlos. And I believe the county does own some of those, but I'd have to reach out.
What is the average cost if you get a speeding ticket? If you are 15, 20 miles over the speed limit, what's the charge for that?
It's a great question. You know, there's different variables that the court considers. One, the age, sex of the driver, also the driving record of the individual that's been stopped or cited. So those are some of the variables that they take in consideration. Usually if you're an 18-year-old young male and you're typically speeding over 20, 25 miles per hour, you expect probably a fine over $500-600, more than likely from the court, okay? But if that, like I said, that individual has multiple citations over 2, then DMV obviously can suspend the license also. So I'm not saying that's a a catch-all that's basically typical, right? Younger drivers will get higher citations, higher fines, and based on their driving record, right? So,
And that ultimately affects your bottom line, right? The more money you make off tickets, the,
no, so the
No,
the
there's no money
CHP
to
gets
be
the
made.
revenue off it.
so who
No,
gets the revenue from
No,
tickets
no
then?
citations, ma'am. We don't charge for, we don't get any revenue from citations. Of the hundreds or thousands of vehicles that we impound a year, we do not charge any processing fees for those
Oh.
impounds. It's about our mission to saving lives. And I forgot to reiterate this earlier, of the 3 traffic crashes, none of them were DUI related. They were all unsafe turning movements, okay? And 2 of them being on Friday night, typically people getting off in a hurry, maybe going out to eat in the evening times. There's a little trend there. Evening times, Friday night, unsafe turning movements. What I can promise to you today, to each of you, is to have a targeted, special enforcement units. There's nothing that's going to deter motorists and traffic and safety is to maximize in-view patrol in the area. Nothing deters people from basically violating the law when they see officers out on the road.
Right. That's kind of where I was going.
Right.
I walk Fair Oaks Avenue almost every morning. To get to the school from 7th to past 2nd, actually a little bit further along. And I often think if I had one of those laser guns that I could get the people that are speeding, I could make somebody a ton of money, because that between 5th and 2nd, it's
Right.
unbelievable how fast people are going. And that's at like 7, 8 in the morning.
Right, and it's not about like making money.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
about
mean,
saving
it's kind
lives.
of as a joke, but at the
Right,
same
right.
time,
And please reach out to our area office, and we do take traffic complaints, and we take good records of those traffic complaints, specific designated times, problem locations. Officers will go out to those locations. They'll be in full in-view patrol. They'll mark how many citations they wrote for that certain hours of the day or verbal warnings. So they'll take those numbers down for us. I don't have the citations in front of me. I wish because our system can get that information for you, but I just don't have that right now.
yeah, no, that's fine. Before we had to go through all these 7 steps, is it possible that we could get a patrol car out there on a couple of different mornings and different times throughout before we try to make all these steps, go through all this, and to try to get data before, anecdotal maybe, but I mean, to some degree, some data, because it's there.
Right, and the problem is, like I said, what I can promise to you is first off, as a commander, I'll issue a briefing item to address the concerns of the community, right? And the problem location, the area, the times, and I can send some officers, like I said, and see what we can do, basically, and take the statistical data, right? Any TCs, how many sites we issued. And usually if we are there for a certain amount of time, it deters traffic, okay? But then we leave, and then many of the problems come back. I oversee 76 officers, 7 sergeants, 2 lieutenants. And so my priority, each day, I at least send 7 officers in the morning, usually 7 or 8 in the evening after 11 o'clock. Of those, if I have 7, 1 is usually dedicated to the Fair Oaks area. I have 2 usually dedicated to the US 101, 2 to 3, 1 to the San Mateo Bridge, 2 officers to the Interstate 280, and usually 1 to the unincorporated area of Fair Oaks here. But if I'm down to 6 or 5, then my priorities go to 101, 280, and the San Mateo Bridge first.
Yeah, don't take my comments as criticism.
no,
I
no,
just wanted to point out that it's very obvious that there's a lot of speeding.
Right. And like I said, we
Point
want
it
to
out.
address the concern, and we want to do something about it, and that's why we're here today.
George. Yeah, Patrick, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you very
I know
much.
you're new. Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you.
You mentioned the statistics. You had 3 reports for all of 2024.
Correct.
Is that incident reports where officers showed up or phone calls that came in from incident?
No, the actual traffic crashes that we took. So we took a crash and we identified a primary cause collision factor, right? And of those 3, you had unsafe turning movements in all. unsafe turning movements and unsafe turning within an intersection. So they're very, very similar.
Next question, I don't quite know who this goes for. We've been talking about stop signs this whole time. But one of the things we've been trying to balance is the ability for businesses on Middlefield to at least have enough traffic to actually conduct business, not really piss off traffic flow. Kathleen, you mentioned in the morning time, people come flying down the road. Yes, they do. But if you come in the evening time during rush hour, Middlefield is standing still from Second to Fifth. So to add no stop sign is really, it needs to be time-based. So maybe instead of looking at a stop sign, we should be looking at blinking red lights where they're based on a time schedule. Where, same thing we have on El Camino, when traffic gets heavy, or pedestrian goes to cross, we have them based on when traffic is actually passed. That's another option. Is that an alternative that could be an option on Middlefield?
So we were talking about for the speed humps or stop
Yeah.
signs, it was just on Fair Oaks. So, but I know exactly what you're saying because, you know, I'll go to Costco sometimes and then go down Middlefield Road and you're just stuck.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure everybody here that's happened to. And I don't know why that is. And I know the captain's only been here for a couple of weeks, but yeah, maybe there's something that we can do about the way the signals are functioning. I don't know if DPW has anything on that.
I'm just curious if we have an automated solution that will kind of work with the time schedules, because a one stop sign, one stop fits all solution is not gonna, I'm just kind of analyzing it more in my head. I don't think it's gonna work for everyone here. So that'll change the timeline.
Well, I'd like to remind the council and the public, we're here specifically to talk about Fair Oaks Avenue.
I said Middlefield.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a whole different
you're right,
animal.
right.
Yeah, I don't want to be rude, but we gotta stay focused.
You're not-
Okay, thank you.
But honestly, I
I
think
was thinking Middlefield and Fair Oaks.
I think part of the issue is that, especially in the evening, when traffic stops on Middlefield, people are coming down Second Avenue and taking Fair Oaks to cut across the Fifth and then go up Fifth to get to El Camino or wherever they're going. Right, so I think that's part of the issue may be the backup on Middlefield.
What is the best deterrent for speeding? On a residential street, on a wide residential street, is it?
But there's different avenues of thought, you know, I always go first and foremost is EMV patrol, maximizing EMV patrol is an automatic deterrent, especially black and whites. And then our officers, especially focusing on these violations, whether it's be DUI, seatbelt, distracted driving, okay? In 2023, Redwood City took 23 fatals as a whole. Different focus, 2024, we only took 9 fatals as a whole for the area. Because I think there was a significant influence, significant, basically we were focusing more on those DUI, PCS. We just weren't focusing on a stop to make a stop or a tail light. We're focusing on those behaviors that make a difference, right? So I think those two are top, and educational, right? Getting educational information through the social media platforms. It's all about the phone. Okay, it's all about X right now. Everybody's on X. So if I have a significant event up to the commissioner's office, they want to know if it's X even before I make notifications. It better be on X, the X platform. So maximize EMV patrol, enforcement on those PCF violations, educational platforms such as social media platforms. Those are a couple of great deterrents.
And then one more follow-up, if we were to submit a petition, would we be submitting a petition for exactly what when it comes to deterring? If we want to slow down traffic on Fair Oaks Avenue between Second and Fifth, what would the petition, how would you start it? Yeah.
So if we're talking about a petition for traffic calming, such as speed humps, you would submit the petition form to my team, road operations.
So my question though is, are speed bumps the answer? Speeding.
I think the CHP captain said it very well. There's different trains of thought. In my opinion, traffic calming is the best solution for speeding. stop signs, it's been proven through studies that they're not a speed deterrent. It's more to a sign right of way. I actually have brochures that we just updated that I can share with all of you. It's a stop sign guide, kind of talks about what stop signs are used for and what they're not so good at.
Yes.
Thank you. This is super helpful. I have a question. It is incredibly difficult to get a petition with 85% of residents in the North Fair Oaks area on any issue, let alone something of speed bumps, especially considering, you know, speaking from my own experience on my street, it's half the residents on the street driving at very unsafe speeds. So I'm curious at what point, because you mentioned the 85% threshold over the 32 degrees, at what point are the speeds so much over and unsafe in a residential neighborhood that it actually is beyond inconvenience to residents and getting their input or needing this petition, but it is a public works driven initiative, or is that not such a thing?
There is not such a thing, because when we gather the speeds from the roadway, it's 24/7 for an entire week. So if one person is driving at 45 miles per hour, that makes the average, the speed go significantly higher. So we're accounting for every vehicle that drives through that street when we do the traffic study.
And this is going to seem unrelated, but I promise it isn't in my head, which could be unrelated. But how does one, is it Public Works or is it the sheriff, get those traffic cameras that capture license plate monitoring? And is that seen as, and have you seen when you've installed
License
those?
plate monitoring?
Yeah,
So we have like the flock system. I'm sure you've all heard of that. So we have the flock, those stationary cameras. But we don't have any, I don't know if we have any for the county, you know, that are owned by the county that we have on a trailer, like on a signboard trailer. I know some other jurisdictions, you know, that we patrol own those. And they'll park them wherever and they'll read license plates. But I mean, if you have an area where you think, you know, an LPR would be a good place, you can always let me know and we can look at it. We have actually one of our captains is he manages the LPR system, all the LPRs in the county. And they have a pretty good plan on where they're placed.
thank you.
The LPR systems, these capture license plates, but they don't issue speeding citations.
No.
Are there any other council members? Yes.
In the past, has there been anyone that has tried to do something about it in those streets? And if they have, where have they faced most challenges?
That have tried to do what?
To do something about that, like the speeding bumps or trying to sign a petition with the.
Not that I know of. I'd have to do some research. I just started here in headquarters in October. They're very well, you know, maybe there was. But I have a question. I don't know if it would be for the county attorney, but could the board make a recommendation for that or?
This council meets in order to provide advice to the Board of Supervisors and county departments about county policy, so they could study the issue and make a recommendation of that type.
Great, thank you.
Then just one more question. Do we know for sure, does the county or the sheriff have the monitors where it tells you what your speed is going? They're mobile, that you can park them on a corner?
The CHP have the signboards that have that show your speed.
I believe we have one operational right now. I lost that believe because involved an accident a couple weeks ago. So I'll have to check on it.
Any idea how much they cost?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think they're pretty pricey. But so we do have them. They're just not for, you know, county area. They're owned by different cities that we patrol. So I couldn't use it down here, but I'd have to check with DPW and see if they have any. And I can definitely do that.
Quick question, where would you like that if we have one on Fair Oaks?
Yeah.
Second, yeah. Start.
Any other comments from council members? I have just some clarifications on the 6 accidents. Captain Joe, is that include the 3 from the CHP? Yes, total?
Yeah.
Okay. This street is marked at 25 miles per hour, and clearly the average traffic is going well over 30 miles an hour. So definitely more patrol, Captain Patrick, that would be awesome if we could have more presence. Given these number of accidents on a street that's supposed to be 25 miles an hour, it's residential, there's a school on it. On top of that, I don't know what the threshold is or what's considered a lot, but it seems to me that it's a bit excessive for what the numbers are for the 25 miles an hour and a school being there. These 3 particular blocks are different from all the other blocks on Fair Oaks Avenue. Granted, Fair Oaks Avenue, it ends, it's not a very long street, but there are dips on other blocks and there's stop signs on other blocks. But on these particular 3 blocks, there are no dips between block and block, and there's no stop signs. So some drivers treat it as a speedway, you know, do the quarter mile or whatever. And it just turns out that it's a wide street, wider than the other part of Fair Oaks Avenue. So people feel like it's kind of an expressway in a sense. And so that's where we are with that. I have a question for the Department of Public Works. Between doing a petition on a stop sign and doing a petition on a calming device, what is the threshold there? Could we do both at the same time? Are they both independent? Could we shoot for one and get the other? How does that work?
That is a good question. I would not recommend doing both at the same time. I would say that the stop sign warrant requirement is probably faster to go through because the criteria is set and you don't have to go through the petition and survey process. So we could do that study first. But it wouldn't make sense to do them at the same time because you would have potentially stop signs and speed humps, which might not work. At this time, I don't even know if the stop signs would be warranted. And I have a brochure that I can share with all the council members so you can take a look.
Yeah, because again, on Fair Oaks Avenue, there seems to be a stop sign on every other block except for those 3. I don't know why those 3 blocks were left with no dips in between, which I believe is a speed reducing mechanism, right?
For the
drainage.
Yeah, but it also slows down cars a bit. And also no stop signs. So that's kind of where we are. And also because of the slowing down of other streets like Middlefield, other lateral streets, there's been an increase of traffic in Fair Oaks Avenue because of the slowing down of Middlefield Road, because of the slowing down of Bay Road. People are starting to use smaller streets like Fair Oaks Avenue as a quick kind of getaway because they're all parallel. So we have some concerned neighbors here and some that couldn't make it tonight. There's certainly going to be an action taken, whether it's the calming device or the stop sign. My inclination at this point is to do the stop sign. I think it would merit because of the amount of volume of traffic going through, even though it wouldn't capture the speeds, perhaps, you know, but again, our point is we want traffic to slow down.
Correct. My recommendation would be for traffic calming, for speed humps. I think that is the best device. It's the best device that's been proven to slow down traffic. With stop signs, what studies have shown is if you put stop sign at every intersection, people are going to stop running the stop signs. Because they're driving through, they're noticing there's no cars at any of the other approaches, let's say at 2 a.m. at night. But every time I'm stopping, and then after a week or 2 weeks, they just, I'm just going to run the stop sign, or they stop and they speed up and accelerate because they have to slow down 3 times now as they're traveling through, as opposed to the stop sign at 2nd and at 5th. All of this is covered in the brochure. I'm happy to discuss more, but when we're talking about addressing speeding, I do recommend speed humps. I do think that is the most effective process or a way to address speeding.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments, Brooks?
One more, yeah. Speed humps versus the little mini roundabouts that we have on other sections of North Fair Oaks. Do you find the speed humps more effective? Because we've seen a decrease in speed. I mean, they've been there many, many years now. But our section of Fair Oaks, south of I guess about 9th or so, used to be a bit of a racetrack. We came in and we put roundabouts in there with oak trees in the middle, and it's pretty unusual for somebody to come barreling down there. I was just wondering if you had data, speed humps versus kind of those
I don't
roundabout
know if we have
traffic.
data,
calming
but
devices.
just in my experience in this area, those definitely help. Those, you're right, once you put in those, what are they called, roundabouts? Once you put in those roundabouts, it definitely slowed people down.
Yeah.
And then you have those rocks on the one side, and
So,
people
yeah,
don't want to
narrows
damage
the
their wheel.
turn a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'd agree with me or not, but I think that's probably the best route to go. It's just very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I can add on. There are various traffic calming devices, narrow median islands, another traffic calming device, roundabouts, traffic circles. They are traffic calming devices. There are certain challenges with roundabouts. They make it much more difficult for emergency vehicles to traverse. They can be a potential hazard for bicyclists because now you're forcing cars to travel in the complexity of a traffic circle is much more significant compared to a speed hump. And so that also presents some challenges and could affect the schedule as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns before we move on to public? No? Okay, are there any public comments on this specific agenda item?
Yes, thank you. You guys can have a seat. Thank you. Yes, we do have a few public comments. I'll start with the in-person and then I'll hop on Zoom. So when I will call your name, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak. I'd like to call Francisco to the podium, followed by Jesus.
Hello. Not a very good speaker, but I've been there. Presently around in the corner of 4th and Fair Oaks. And I've been there for 25 and a half years. And Middlefield is not the issue. They've been speeding ever there. I've seen many near misses where cars have almost run over pedestrians. I've seen many accidents, and we definitely need to do something about it. Speed bumps, I think, would be great. That's about it for me. I mean, I've seen it all there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call Jesus.
Everyone. I think we covered majority of the topics with the officers and Public Works, but I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jesus. I'm a River City native and new to the Fair Oaks neighborhood. My wife and I bought our first home back in December 2023 in North Fair Oaks on actual Fair Oaks Avenue. Since then, we've been really concerned about our safety and the safety of our children. In a period of less than 10 months, we have witnessed reckless driving and car accidents on Fair Oaks Avenue. My wife and I always kid and say, what a welcome. The first car accident was on the intersection of Fair Oaks and 2nd Avenue. The second incident we witnessed was between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. I believe there might have been some injured folks on that accident. The third accident happened right in front of our home. A loud crash woke us up right around 3 a.m. And this one was a bit interesting because it actually took officers to arrive on the scene, maybe like a little bit over an hour. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there. And the fourth accident was right before Halloween in the corner of Fourth and Fair Oaks. That one seemed to be more correlated to a Friday night when people were trying to get somewhere. These are accidents we have witnessed, who knows how many others have happened without our knowledge and have been reported to PD. Those stats could actually be higher than that. Accidents happening this frequent on neighborhood streets is very abnormal. I'm concerned not only for the safety of my family, but other neighboring families as well. On a daily basis, we witness cars speeding well beyond the limit. Every morning, our alarm clock is cars speeding down the street. So to get a perspective, I live in between Fifth Avenue and Fourth Ave. So everyone that goes on that stop sign speeds off. And if you want times, is between 6:50 a.m. Due to the series of events and daily annoyance, I'm here today to request that we consider some sort of speed enforcement. We talked about those solutions. I propose, short-term police should post nearby to catch these offenders, or set up radar signs to alert drivers to slow down. And I know we talked about the mobile ones, but I'm also considering maybe the ones that are near schools, that are actual signs that tells you, hey, slow down, or you're going way, this is your speed. In the long term, I hope to see dips, speed bumps, or some roundabouts to help traffic slow down. There needs to be accountability for inconsiderate people speeding down our streets.
Thank you. Do we have other speakers?
Yeah, last call for public comment for in person. We do have a hand raised. Sorry. So we do have a hand raised on Zoom. Hugo Lawton. Once I'll unmute you, you can have your 2 minutes.
Hi there. Thanks for allowing me some time to speak. I'm the principal of KIPP Excellencia Community Prep that is located on Fair Oaks Avenue. Just wanted to come tonight to voice my support for these measures discussed. As the principal of the school, each morning and afternoon, my role is getting students into and out of the school safely. Particularly in the mornings, I find that often I am putting my body in the way of reckless drivers and our students. And there are near misses and safety risks each morning as students walk to and drive to the school. We are focusing obviously on our scope of control, which is mostly on how we kind of support students in getting into and out of the building each day. Using crosswalks is a big focus for us, and ensuring that students, especially small students, are accompanied by their parents. But I find that even when students are using crosswalks, and when they are using the crossing area on Fair Oaks Avenue, the cars are often kind of disregarding those signals, which makes it hard for me to maintain safety for students as they enter and exit our campus. And also makes it hard for me to explain the rationale behind using crosswalks and the common safety advice that we give to small kids. Becomes hard to enforce when students see drivers treating those areas in such a way. So in full support of whatever measures we can use to be able to support the safety of the traffic on Fair Oaks.
Thank you for your comments.
We have no public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, this was not an action item. This was an informational meeting. So we'll definitely, having look at our options, we will take measures to move forward. So I think hopefully it was good information for everybody. And we have a plan how to move forward with the information that was given tonight. Thank you, both officers, for coming. And hopefully, you both being captains, you can see the severity and the concern in the community. Your presence is very much appreciated on Fair Oaks Avenue. We'll move on, now move on to our agenda item number 6, which is motion finalizing 2025 priorities. We have Debbie, our consultant, that will be leading this discussion.
Well, I saw the list of work that they described the whole processes. But if for an advisory board, we can provide recommendations, can we recommend that the county provide the study or?
Let's ask our attorney, even though this is not an action item, could we bring it in then like the next month and make it an action item?
Yeah, the issue is that it has to be agendized in such a way that the public knows what it is that you're going to do before you do it. So if you want to request that there be an agenda item that specifies what you propose and the public is invited to the conversation, then you can take action at your next meeting.
Okay, so that would kind of bypass a lot of the process of getting the petitions, doing all that.
No,
I mean, you can adopt a recommendation for the Board of Supervisors to take an action. You're going to hear from a number of county departments that bypassing the process creates a lot of problems about ensuring that the public actually wants the thing that you're proposing. The reason why there's a petition process is that there's no use in adopting a law that people don't want. So I don't want to give too firm a recommendation about the right path forward. I can only say that the process exists so that the community asks for things that it intends to comply with. So it might be necessary to invite the conversation and see whether or not the public would prefer to be asked through a petition process, et cetera. And you can have that discussion at the next meeting.
Okay, that's good insight. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Debbie.
Hi. Let's see, can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. My name is Debbie Schechter. I'm a consultant with the county. Specifically, I work with county boards and commissions to help facilitate meetings, to help them do strategic planning and come up with work plans. So last week, Emma Gonzalez and her staff worked with you on the start of your priority setting process to come up with priorities for the next couple of years. And you made a lot of good progress. And so today our intent is to try to take that the next step further to clarify your priorities for the next 2 years and begin coming up with some specifics, some actions to actually implement and for you all to focus on. So staff have prepared some slides. You can go to the next slide, please. So as a reminder, you all know your mission statement, which is to provide recommendations on health, safety, welfare, public works, and planning for North Fair Oaks. Next slide, please. So last week, you identified a number of values that you are personally committed to and as a commission. And the idea of that exercise was really to have the values inform your priorities and to make sure that the priorities that you all come up with that you want to work on over the next couple of years are actually reflective of the values that are important to you as a commission. Next slide, please. So as you'll recall, these are the priorities that you came up with. Pedestrian safety, which we've heard a lot about already today, addressing overcrowded parking, and economic zone / growth. So really what we want to do today is hone in on these priorities, really get some clarity on what, for each of these, what is the problem that you all are trying to address? What is it that you want to accomplish in the next couple of years? Making sure that these are things that you actually, as a commission, can do something about, that there's some concrete recommendations that you can make to the Board of Supervisors to do, or that you can work with the community to accomplish. Was there another slide? Okay, yeah, and so as a reminder, I think Emma went through this. just sort of highlighting what SMART goals are, that they should be specific, as I mentioned, that they should be measurable. So you want to know what it is that you want to accomplish and be able to measure that they should be achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And was that? Oh, okay. And then this is the work plan template that you all received last time and possibly made some progress on developing. So what I thought that we could try to do today is I could help you walk through each of the priorities. I know that you set up small subcommittees, and maybe you've done a little bit more thinking about the priorities, but that we could work as a commission to help you really hone in on what it is you want to accomplish. So for example, I came in after the start of the discussion on pedestrian safety and traffic calming on Fair Oaks Avenue. But I would imagine, since that was on the agenda for your meeting today, that is a specific priority under pedestrian safety, that you have already identified Fair Oaks Avenue as an area of concern. And you even today came up with some options for ways that you might increase pedestrian safety and reduce speeds on Fair Oaks Avenue. So you could maybe come up with some other geographic areas that you're focused on and really hone in on what it is that you want to accomplish. So maybe the goal is both to reduce speeds and increase pedestrian safety. And so that might be measurable by things like, fewer accidents, people feeling more safe. We heard from the principal that he doesn't feel safe, that his students don't feel safe, that the parents don't feel safe. So, there are different ways that you can measure those things. So those are some examples of what we hope to get you to do in order to put together a work plan that is clear to you all and that you can work towards accomplishing. So I guess what I first wanted to ask whether you all have made any progress since the last meeting on clarifying those priorities or coming up with specific action items. And I know it's only been a week, so it's okay to say no.
I just shared with Juan Carlos and Beatrice, but I just at least broke down using the SMART goals template, what the different steps would be. I think I was really hoping that we as a commission or small group, however this was going to go, that we could put a little meat on the bones, because I think when we started with the work plan template, it took a little bit of, I think, a reframe from Emma to make it mesh here. So to save my group time on my own, and because they have not read it, I just handed it to them, but just to give us something to work off of, but it definitely needs more collaborative.
Well, my proposal would be, because you all are a small commission, that maybe we spend 15 minutes on each of the 3 priorities and just see how far we can get and make sure that we identify some next steps. Is that something that would be helpful for you all?
Yes.
Okay. So would you like to start, Kelly? And then what I think, I think staff is prepared to type some of this up. Is that right? Are we? Can we show that on the screen?
Type it right in.
So I have a whole document, so if you don't want to type it, I could probably just send it.
Yeah, and maybe they'll just get the highlights and then maybe add to it.
So we were our group obviously was focused on pedestrian safety. And I think the one thing that we started with as a small group is wanting to be data driven and also be effective, to really be realistic in what we, given all of the parameters that we're reminded of what we could accomplish. And so where we sort of netted out was we have to decide on the dates. The North Fair Oaks Community Council's Pedestrian Safety Subcommittee will identify 1 to 3 key locations within North Fair Oaks where pedestrian safety improvements are needed. Obviously, we had sort of already identified one. Using data from CHP, Department of Public Works, and the Sheriff's Office. The subcommittee will propose at least one viable solution per location, be it speed bumps, pedestrian crossing lights, et cetera, and present a formal recommendation to the Department of Public Works and CHP for consideration and implementation. Again, this is before I heard the presentation today, so I now know a little bit more. And we had originally, which I don't know if this might be the best way, and to be specific, SMART being one, in identifying the locations, work with CHP, Public Works and others to identify other locations beyond the one. Given what we've heard from like a principal, people who are walking area residents, that the data thing might need to be a little jiggered on our end, measuring, proposing at least one solution. I loved the addition that, you know, I noted it about how residents feel safer, and a principal, for instance, feel safer. Where are the people who have the concern, and is that concern alleviated?
So that might be a measure, would be.
Yeah.
Do people feel safer as
Yeah,
well as the actual data? Yeah.
Yeah, because we had not heard this presentation when I did this, and I was sort of surprised at the disconnect, but not really considering how few CHP and officers are stationed there, the disconnect between what's reported versus what's really going on. And then having some clear progress checkpoints, like that we're keeping ourselves accountable and on track. And conducting site visits, finalize solutions, prepare recommendations by whatever determined date, achievable, working within the folks that we just heard here tonight to figure out what's actually realistic given our status as this commission. And then obviously collaborate with relevant agencies, residents, schools, et cetera, whoever is involved in sort of the sites that we picked. Relevance, it aligns with our mission, which you had up earlier. And it's a pressing issue directly impacting residents' day-to-day experience of their neighborhoods, quality of life, time bound. Obviously, like we would have key checkpoints throughout. So that was sort of just like unpacking it from a process perspective. Again, I think we need more on the bones.
Well, it sounds like you and your committee, or you did a lot of work, and that sounds great. I wonder what other people think about what Kelly just presented around pedestrian safety.
I think the challenges for some of all three of the priorities are one, time for any one of us to accomplish all of what needs to be accomplished.
Right.
Including, resources like, okay, we're gonna go and do something. Who's gonna pay for the printing? Like, there's some things that are still very unclear as the council about how, if we're gonna go out into the public, are we going by ourselves? Do we have support from D4's office? There's still a bunch of unknowns that, come up in getting all of this done. And so I think as a council, we haven't quite figured that out yet.
Can I add to what you're saying? All these initiatives that we're discussing here, prosperity zone, safety, all these things, they're beautiful. They're long-term to some degree, but it's us.
Right.
And we're volunteer.
Right,
and
exactly.
we need to have some type of additional executionary resources from the county side. That has yet to be identified. We have zero funding from the county side that I'm aware of. What additional support, if any, do we have aside from just talking about what we want to do? Actually execute on.
That's a great question. I don't know that I can answer that. I guess I would turn to staff to see, how staff can support you. I don't know if that's an attorney question or an OCA question.
It probably is more an OCA question, but because I'm in the room and have a microphone. The district staff is mostly the liaison between you and the county about district-based issues. So if you have ideas for things that can happen in North Fair Oaks, then dealing with the supervisor staff is one avenue available to you.
So I hear what you all are saying. And so, it might be worth kind of going through the priorities again, kind of the way Kelly just did for this one. And then really hone in on for the next couple of years, what you think you can do. Because this sounds great, identify 3 locations and find a solution for each one. But we heard, today, just some of the challenges associated with the one location that's already identified. So, maybe that's where you start with Fair Oaks Avenue, if that is something that you all feel like is important. And you already have a head start because you heard kind of what can be done. And I would suggest that maybe a couple of other things you could do is sort of mobilize community support and bring some recommendations to your supervisor liaison or the board and say, this is important to our community and we would like the county to find a way to fund it.
One thing that just occurred to me based on this conversation is the piece that's incredibly difficult on the petition is getting 85% of residents on the street to even reply to it.
For sure, yeah.
And hard stop, that's not the people that are renting, that's actually the owners of the establishments. And I don't know what the makeup of, owner occupied units versus not. But I know from other presentations to this group, Canopy, for instance, which plants trees for free, really struggled in North Fair Oaks and Fair Oaks getting folks to actually accept these free services because of a variety of different things. All of that to say is it is incredibly challenging. One thing that only came to my mind based on what you said and sort of being a little creative about what resources we have is I imagine the students, parents, and the families who attend that school care deeply about the safety of Fair Oaks Avenue. I also imagine other residents who may not own the houses that live on Fair Oaks Avenue, but travel on there also are concerned. And, going to the point that we are one committee, how can we do this? We're limited in time. I mean, we had this very successful car show or the Christmas festival a year and a half ago. Those brought huge amounts of community members. And to me, those are the kinds of mobilization efforts I think would be useful. And I think the question I have, and I don't know if it's one that Tim could answer because it might be more of a public works, is if they would be willing, because I know the process is to solicit community and not bypass all of the agencies and the steps in the process. But to me, Fair Oaks is trafficked by way more people than just those residents that live there. And so I'm just wondering if that is a viable option to understand if they would accept other voices on this petition beyond just the residents of the street.
As you were speaking, maybe one of our initiatives shouldn't be to go through this long, convoluted 85% process. Maybe the process should be to see if we can modify the process for our district. Because if we know that we've got heavy speeding there, maybe we can, instead of get rid of the 85% rule, say, why don't we have initiatives for a study for the speed traffic cameras, where they're not cameras, but the monitoring devices, where they come out and do a study for a week. And if the study itself says that, yeah, we've got a massive percentage of speeding vehicles, that triggers the, hey, we should look into.
I asked that question though, of Department of Works.
Right, but I'm thinking maybe our initiative should be to see if we can get a separate approval process for us. Yeah.
So I hear you both saying the same thing there, like, because, and you raised the point of, well, let's work with the school. So maybe you decide we're going to focus on Fair Oaks Avenue because we know that that's a problem. And maybe one of your actions would be to do some sort of outreach to the school to get support from parents, students, or to hear from them about their concerns. And maybe that is information that you could bring into the process to work with Public Works and the supervisor to move your process along.
Yeah.
And so instead of focusing on 3 areas, maybe you just try the one initially. And if that works, then maybe in future years you can move forward.
Yeah, and our priorities, I think we made it clear that we do have some short goals and some longer ones.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty shocked to hear the principal from an elementary school in North Fair Oaks telling us this is a major concern.
Yeah.
The kids cannot cross the street.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a red flag.
Yeah.
And for me, it's, you know, I see, you know, different levels that we can move this to. I think the immediate thing we can do, whether it's Public Works, whether it's the sheriff, and I know Josh can help us from the district office with this, is at the minimum, put this speeding device out there for the cars to see. You know, that Kathleen, you brought that up. Public Works said that they might have one. Sheriff think they might have one. Even the CHP officer said they might even be able to find one. At the short term, I think that we can immediately jump on that. Fair Oaks Avenue, particularly these blocks, obviously I don't know all the homeowners. I know some, but they're mostly owner occupied. But the neighborhood around the school are apartment complex, and those are all renters. And then we have an issue there with the petition, because now it has to be homeowners who sign the petition, not renters. So whether we can get that 85% of all Fair Oaks Avenue homeowners to do it, I'm pretty confident that we would, but we also need to account for those renters, because on both sides of the school, actually, there's large apartment complexes on both sides of the school. And I'm sure that the vast majority of those children go to school there.
So I'm hearing you say that you want to potentially find an alternative to the process that exists for getting these devices approved by targeting the school and the renters in addition to.
I was shocked to learn that there are not exceptions and exemptions for instance, schools.
Yeah.
Because there is for drug and alcohol policies, there's a higher fine when you're within X percentage distance of a school. Like, it seems that speeding in and near a school is far more detrimental and dangerous than any other residential.
So it seems to me this is something that you could advocate for. You know, this is Public Works policy. It's not a law. Is that correct? It's how they operate, right?
That's a complicated question. I don't know that I can answer it.
Okay.
It is both. Essentially, local jurisdictions have the authority to regulate the streets, but confined by state policy, because essentially you should be able to drive anywhere in California and not encounter unusual road rules that are different from what you might experience in your own town. So the state actually places some constraints on what can be done with designs of roadways and regulation of roadways. But that's a broader question, I think, than simply the question of posted speed limits. It really comes down to more than just the posted speed limits and enforcement though.
Yeah, I think that they were talking about the process, like if they wanted an exception to the process that the Public Works representative laid out.
And I think that there can be a multiple kind of prong approach to this. I just threw one out that for me, it's just practical. Let's get something out there for a speed deterrent for now. But we have yet, or we have a schedule already to meet with our new supervisor, because this is really a policy matter. I think that's really the bottom line. It's a policy matter. And I think our supervisor that represents North Fair Oaks needs to understand the severity of what's going on. And she can then attack it from her end, which will be a lot more efficient. And maybe, you know, as we say, maybe the policy needs to be revisited. Maybe there needs to be some exceptions to that.
I think, yeah. One way to get the data that we would need, but we don't have a budget to buy anything, is I just looked up for $4,678. We could buy one of those speed monitors that will record data for us. Right, but there's our 85, I mean, there's the data that we need. But we don't have a budget, and it doesn't sound like they might be able to find us one, but how long do we wait? But where we could get answers sooner.
Yeah.
With our.
Well,
yeah.
so that might be something that you explore with your supervisor liaison. How can you get one of those monitors out there? So I think you've made good progress on this item. I don't think you have to have all of the steps clear today. I think you've outlined a number of possible steps. I think Kenny captured some of them. So explore alternatives to the process that Public Works laid out. Maybe outreach to the school and renters, maybe work with the supervisor to get a traffic speed monitoring device. But I think just to spend just like 1 or 2 more minutes on this, so pedestrian safety is the area, it sounds like your goal is to reduce speeds and improve pedestrian safety. Specifically, we've been talking about Fair Oaks Avenue between 2nd and 5th. So that's a pretty specific goal, if that's what you all want to hone in on for now.
Yeah, Debbie, I'm sorry. I just wanted to jump in really quickly. It sounds like what I'm hearing from both Juan Carlos and Kelly is there's some discussion about creating a traffic calming study between 2nd and 5th on Fair Oaks. But from the principal side, that's on the other side between 1st and I think that is, I forget the name of the street, Hampshire, maybe. Over there. It's a different area. It's not the area that they've identified. They're 2 different areas.
Thank you for clarifying that.
But you can in fact say those are the 2 areas that you want to focus on. And you could create, as Tim laid out, you could make a recommendation to the supervisor, you could do a study, and you could work with those residents. But the number of households between 2nd and 5th that are primary residents is a very small number. So Kelly, that's a clarification that you would have with DPW. There's not 80 households. So they won't require, I mean, they'll have to, they'll lay those parameters, but it could also include that additional information. So I think being very clear on what are the area you're looking at, because the 2 areas, the areas you're talking about are 2 specifically different areas.
Thanks for that clarification, Emma.
Okay, well, this is an action item, council members. So unless you want to do any changes or reconsider any items or shift anything around, we do need to take a vote because this is an action item. Are there any comments or suggestions on this matter?
Juan Carlos, are they still going through the other? I think Debbie was still going through the other work plans.
Those are 2 priorities.
Okay, sorry, I jumped the gun on that. Sorry
I
about
thought
that.
maybe you wanted to do priority by priority. That's why I didn't say anything. But so it sounds like the great work, everybody. I mean, I think you made some progress there. So let's talk about the second priority, which was overcrowded parking on streets. Was that the second one?
Yeah.
So
Kathleen and me are on that one. Yeah, so the basic idea on that is that we want to look into the various alternatives to alleviate parking overcrowding in North Fair Oaks. And we thought that providing basic information about such alternatives for people who live in North Fair Oaks and may have multiple vehicles. For some of those, maybe not knowing what to do with, older vehicles. Providing such alternatives like organizations that may purchase, an older car, organizations that accept older cars as donations. In addition to what is the basic enforcement for parking that we get in our Fair Oaks and the alternatives for residents to utilize that enforcement capability. And then understand what San Mateo County does to alleviate the parking, to provide that alternative also, or that information to the public.
Okay.
Yes.
So the overall goal is reduce the number of cars on the streets, right? Parked on the streets.
Yeah, although, I guess that would be the ultimate goal. I think one specific goal could be to compile this information about the alternatives, what people can do with their vehicles, and then provide that information to the public, so that at least, people know that those are the alternatives they have.
So would that be that, so compiling information sounds like a really good approach, but the ultimate goal is to reduce the number of cars parked on the streets, right?
Correct.
Okay. So maybe how do you feel about clarifying the language that way instead of saying addressing overcrowded parking? Say what it is that you want to accomplish, which is to reduce the number of cars parked on the streets.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, reducing the number of cars could be one good solution. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's like the visual representation of the goal, right? Like when you're in the neighborhood, you want to see fewer cars parked on the streets because that means that all the cars that need to can fit, right? Or am I putting words in your mouth? How would you all say what the goal is? What is the overall outcome that you all want to see?
I'd say finding alternatives for the amount of cars on the street, because I think we can't force a family that has 4 cars to reduce the number of cars they have. So.
Oh, I understand that.
Alternatives to.
But what does it look like? How will you know that you have achieved your goal? What does it look like? Yeah, what does it look like?
And it's a good question.
So does it look like there are fewer cars parked on the street? Like when you walk through the neighborhood, it seems like they're not parked so tightly together. They're not parked all over the place. Or is that not the?
Yeah.
Well, so that's a great question. So if you can't measure it, is it something you want to do?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Just because you can't measure it doesn't mean it's not having an effect.
Okay, so how would you know that what you're doing is a good use of your time? I'm not arguing with you, I'm just sort of, yeah.
I see you picking my brain so I can get to a metric.
Exactly.
I like this.
I guess one alternative would be to get feedback from the residents and to ask whether they found the information useful to, get rid of one junker, or perhaps they help a neighbor,
Okay.
Get rid of a junker. I guess that could be, one of the metrics.
So did they take action based on the information that was provided?
I heard you all say this at the last meeting. Wouldn't one metric, and forgive me if I missed a little bit of this and this is off topic, but wouldn't one be opening up 20 new spots at Stanford, 20 new spots at different locations? Wouldn't that have a net impact of reducing the amount that's parked on the street because there are like overflow options?
Do you mean like obtaining permission, like from Stanford?
Yes.
To utilize their parking facilities? That could be one alternative, I guess. But I'm afraid that that alternative is only moving the problem elsewhere, not actually tackling the root issue, which is, many people have a lot of vehicles. And also, so providing these alternatives to North Fair Oaks residents, it would be a very good way to provide information that is currently not available. Me as a resident, I've never received, any information related to how I can get rid of an old junker, let alone, talking about the issue of, parking overcrowding, officially, although, I read it all the time in Nextdoor, people getting in each other's nerves about parking, but the alternatives are not out there, official information that has not been provided. And I think that could have, a good result.
We have Emma with her hand up. Emma, can you?
Hi, I just wanted to share, I think we talked about this last week. An example could be, although one is I'm hearing you say that you want to create a research and where are the different alternative parkings, but a very detailed one could say that you would like to yield a donation program, and then with the goal of getting 20 cars donated by the end of the year or something like that. But that's a tangible number, which then results in, have a very measurable, tangible number that has been resulted through this donation program. That's an example.
Right.
Can I add to that? So I'm a computer data guy. And so just like our iPhones, whatever they be, no matter how much storage we give people, they're gonna find ways to fill it up. So no matter how many cars we take off the road in our neighborhood, we're gonna find ways to fill up those spots. So maybe the metric shouldn't be to create any new spots. How many actual people use the program that we provide? We're gonna be able to show them and say there are resources to get your cars off the road. Even if it's one, that's one extra vehicle spot that we just freed up.
So it sounds like George and Ever and Emma are kind of saying the same thing, that it may not be something that you can actually see on the street, but you can figure out whether people use the information that you give them about getting rid of their cars, whether they use this donation program, whether enforcement results in, if that's an idea, in any cars being moved off. So it sounds like you have some potential metrics there.
And Debbie, I just would only put a caveat in there of saying is, we have to acknowledge that North Fair Oaks is a highly densely populated community, multi-family housing that has multiple families, and one family could have up to like 5 to 10 cars. That is not uncommon in this area. And they're all working because everybody has an adult that lives with them and multiple family members. So I also want to acknowledge that as just a data point.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. So Kenny has captured some of what you said, compiling, can you read it, Kenny?
Yeah, compiling information about what to do with older vehicles, like donation programs, parking enforcement, North Fair Oaks and alternatives for residents, understanding county resources that alleviates parking constraints, and then exploring overflow parking like at Sanford.
So in addition to the compiling the information, you would need some kind of outreach to get it to residents, right? So compiling and distributing or something like that. And then you all could come up with a numerical goal if you wanted to, like Emma suggested. But this is some good progress. How do you all feel about this priority? It's getting there. All right, the third one was economic zone / growth.
Prosperity zone, so similar.
So can you say a little more about what you're trying to achieve with this?
Yes, there are several goals here, some of them short-term, some of them long-term, but most of them surrounding a bigger vision of bringing in growth and business into this community. And one of the achievements could be to sit with the county executives, or sit with our representative specifically, and figure out what county-based sales tax, capital gain tax, property tax, whatever it may be that we hold, not on a state level or a county level, that can be alleviated to promote growth in business in this district. State level, we just can't do, but if we have anything that we could claw back on the county level, that would make this more enticing to want to do business here.
Okay, can I ask you a couple of questions?
I insist.
Okay, so bring business and growth into North Fair Oaks.
Yep.
Does that mean any kind of business or business that's community focused or?
Business is business. I think it's, once they apply through the permitting process, the zoning will describe
what they can do?
allowed. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, and then it sounds like you're saying working with the county to figure out how to promote growth and business through tax incentives or other.
Could be tax incentives, could be changing zoning perspectives for certain lots. I don't know. I want to sit down with the county and see what county restrictions we have.
Okay.
That can be applied.
I just also just to piggyback here, during COVID, which was a very difficult, very difficult time for Middlefield Road and North Fair Oaks businesses. The county did spend some resources in marketing. They try to help the businesses in any way they could. So maybe advertisement, marketing.
Yeah, open to everything.
Yeah, I mean.
Now, this is just one initiative of several.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was to see if we can get, and we had the car show event, and I don't want to keep harping on that, but that brought a lot of business in. That if we could have regular quarterly events where we can get some type of small budget to, or Josh was instrumental in all this. He worked as a PM or with the businesses, working everything. We can get a resource to help us move the needle forward a little bit. Getting these events on a regular basis, that'd be huge. So just another initiative would be getting resources from the county, whether it be a small first budget. And
what was that? I'm sorry.
A small budget.
Small
to
budget.
keep these things going, along with a dedicated resource as needed, to help us plan these events.
Okay, so those are all ideas. I would encourage you again to be realistic. So thinking about your all's ability to do stuff and your other priorities, I wonder if a quarterly event is.
It's doable. I mean,
Yeah.
we worked our butt off.
Okay.
We got the last one.
Okay.
It's doable if we can get the resources.
And when you say resources, does that mean bodies or money?
Debbie, I think they had full-time, they had Josh from the district office put a lot of his staff time there. So that was at the request. I think they worked directly with the supervisor's office. So
okay.
That's something that they could definitely ask of the supervisor.
Yeah.
That's
so
a
that would
district
be
staff. Yeah.
Specific request for Josh's time to support you with these kinds of events.
Welcome, Josh.
I had a question. I heard really great things about this car show. I wasn't able to assist, but I guess I wanted to know more who was, I'm assuming Josh played a big part planning this, but who else? And then were these business just like sponsors or? I saw that there was a few that were featured, but not many.
You want to answer, Josh? No? Okay, fine. I'll answer.
Or another one. How long did it take to plan this?
Me and Josh worked.
It was just you two?
We had a whole team help, but the primary person was Josh. He's the one on this day and night. He went to local businesses, knocked on doors. When you ask for sponsors, for example, Connoisseur Coffee, they were one of the sponsors, but they didn't donate money. They showed up with a table, free coffee, free everything. We had one of the bakeries, I don't recall the name off the top of my head, but they gave us an extremely discounted price to provide goods. So that's the kind of sponsorship we had.
I think the question is, Josh, did that come out of district funds?
No, nothing came out of district funds. It was me and Josh paying for everything
So Josh and you paid for it out of your direct,
out of our pocket.
out of your own pocket? Josh, nothing came from district?
Not that I'm aware of. It was all sponsored. It was all
He
sponsored.
said it was sponsors.
There was no fund. No.
So nothing was paid out of, so there, okay, thanks.
So it sounds like you have a model that you use that was successful, that you want to replicate for more events to help bring in growth. And it sounds like, you know, maybe part of that is just these ongoing partnerships with the existing businesses that you want as your sponsors. So and it sounds like you want to request resources in the form of Josh's time from the supervisor's office. So that might be specific.
I say
action.
Josh's time facetiously, but just a resource.
Okay, a staff person.
Staff. person.
Yeah,
Can I
just to
ask-
be clear about what resources are.
Can I
Yeah.
add something? Last year in May, Renaissance and Job Train hosted an event alongside with Community Affairs. And we had 3 North Fair Oaks vendors participate where they were able to sell. So it was like a pop-up event, but also a resource, like a resource festival. So if it's something that you're interested, where you collaborate with other nonprofits in the area, where if they have the capacity to also sell at these events, or either be featured where they're giving out samples, maybe giving out like coupons to the community, like, hey, come to Esquina or Brew, you can get 10% off your first purchase, or whatever that may be. But even if it maybe not might be quarterly, but maybe something we can go big.
I think we can
Whereas-
save that discussion when we actually sit down into the planning after we get county resources.
Yes.
Well, so from what you're describing, what I'm hearing is that this priority is about bringing new businesses in, but also promoting and growing the existing
Yes, it's
businesses.
a parallel approach with multiple. goals.
Okay, so maybe you could just say that a little more clearly so that everybody knows like what it is.
One initiative is the one we just discussed, to have the county assign a dedicated resource and provide us a budget of some sort. Where every year it's, $5,000 or so to help us.
A small
get the-
budget.
the small budget.
Okay.
So that's one initiative. Second initiative, and this is a long-term goal,
The
is to
incentive.
sit with the county exec and try to figure out what levers can we pull on the economic side to promote growth in this area.
Great. And then the overall goal is promoting businesses and growth in this area.
Just a quick comment. I don't know if from a council level, I know we're talking about really grandeur plans and that's great. But even just from a macro perspective, there's new businesses coming up in North Oaks all the time. A friend of mine that I went to high school with just opened up a little restaurant, really cute, really nice, sells pupusas from El Salvador. He just opened up great food. There's a place from South America or from Argentina, they sell empanadas. That place just came up. I think it would be great that if we, as a council, maybe once a month or whenever on a Saturday, hey, let's go introduce ourselves. Let's go welcome this new business to North Fair Oaks. All these new restaurants come up. I think it's good promotion. It's everything. It's everything that we represent, but we need to be out there, use social media and say, hey, we're here. Come and support the local business,
One thing that came to my attention just recently was we discussed rebranding this area. I think I heard the county recently funded a rebranding effort, at least a study for that. Consultant to come in and figure that out. So there are things moving.
That's really
There is some initiatives moving.
Well, so it sounds like you've clarified your goal about bringing businesses and growth into North Fair Oaks. And then your two initiatives is, well, there's three things now. So get some resources from the county to support periodic events, and then sit with the county to find ways to promote growth in businesses through incentives or whatever the county can do. And then the chair's idea about going out and welcoming new businesses to North Fair Oaks and helping promote them. I think Kenny captured all those, yeah. So how do y'all feel about that? Any other comments? Wow. Well, great work, you all. So one other thing before you move forward and take action on this. So this is the hardest part that I think Kathleen was kind of alluding to, like your ability to do all this. So one thing I wanted to ask you is, how will you continue to work on these priorities? Will you, and there are a couple of options in my head and you all might have some others. So you could you could meet periodically in your ad hoc committees outside of the meeting and then report back and ask for support from the rest of your commission members. You could dedicate a portion of every meeting to talking through these priorities and your progress. That would require that you limit the number of other things that are on your meeting agenda. So, I know that you always have people coming to give you presentations on stuff, so you might have to, reduce those. So those are the two ideas in my head, and you all may have others, but it's important to think about and to articulate how you're actually going to find the time to work on these priorities and move them forward.
I feel like it would be a good idea to have small groups in your initiatives working together and coming back and reporting out, knowing that for some issues, there may not be a report out every month, and that's okay. And then bringing any input we're looking for from other council members as well as the public to these meetings, but so that we've done the legwork, because I know just in hearing the one presentation that happened, I have like 5 more questions I didn't have before this. And while I love talking with this full group, I'd hate to limit some of the other agenda items. That's my vote.
I think it also goes back to asking D4 and our new supervisor for a budget, because I think a lot of this does come, a lot of the information that we need would be an experience going door to door and talking to more people within the community. And that's not something I think I can just do on my own, but I would love to be able to hire some promotoras to go with me. I think I could capture a whole bunch of information about Fair Oaks Avenue, about businesses, about a lot of things, but I'm not a Spanish speaker, and I just think that it would help to be able to hire promotoras. They're available and they're willing to help, and they have a wealth of information that they can share with us, but it's going to require paying them. They're not going to do it for free. So I'm going to ask for somehow to get some money to be able to do that.
What do others think about how you all want to make your contribution? Like, what's the best way for you all to contribute to moving these ideas forward?
A lot of this is executive meetings.
I don't know.
A lot of this is executive meetings with our county executives. So making sure that our agenda, our priority is nice and tight. We have all the right questions, and getting some space in the room with them to be able to discuss this.
Mm-hmm.
The metric to decide whether or not it's actually working is, do we get a yes or no from them?
Mm-hmm.
I concur.
So I think everything that you've said makes a lot of sense. And how are you going to track your progress? So that's kind of what I'm getting at. Are you going to do it in these, like Kelly suggested, you have your subcommittees meet and then you report back to the full group and discuss, or
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we have in our agenda, report outs. And we can just do report outs. And as Kelly said, if there's progress from 1 month to the next, then we report out. If there's nothing to report, then there's nothing to report. But we have this opportunity here on our agenda to do this on a monthly basis, so we can take advantage of that.
Great. I think my job here is done.
If I could add something through the chair, I think we should also plan for sort of major stepping stones time during our study sessions to, you know, delve a little deeper into these activities, considering that we have more time during the study sessions. But also, you know, putting ourselves some deadlines so that we don't carry on the full year, you know, still thinking about it and, you know, not having concrete objectives per se. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. And just to let council know, it was my desire from the beginning when we had our last study session to have Debbie, but unfortunately there was a conflict. And that's why she's here tonight. But it's my intention, Debbie, if you want to make a public commitment here, that you will be at our next study session so we can continue this. Because I completely agree with you, Ever. We need to move forward, you know, in the way you're saying and take advantage of the study sessions to do that. Yeah.
So most likely I can do that. You know, I have to check with the person who manages the contract with the county. But I was going to offer that I can come back and help you if you need further help with strategizing or assessing where you're at. I'm happy to do that as long as it's within the contract that I still have.
And can I just add in there, we'll have to just look at that on I mean, not for a long term. Debbie can definitely come back at the next study session. But Debbie is on a retainer through a contract and supports the boards and commissions and other things. And so I don't know what's left in that contract amount. So we would have to look at that as needed.
Thank you, Emma, for that clarification. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Debbie, for that. And this is a action item. So any comments from council members regarding this matter?
Public comment.
Oh, public comment before we get to voting.
But there is no public comment.
But there is no public comment. See, that's why I moved right away.
Just reminding you.
Council members?
I wonder if we can temporarily make a motion to continue meeting, you know, with our core teams and to do report outs at least the next time, and to continue at the next study session, you know, utilizing that like as a motion. So I don't know what else, you know, to do a motion about.
Yeah, so have quarterly reports out. Can we agree on that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. That's the action item, to submit a work plan. Is that right, Debbie? Yes. Huh?
Maybe this requires clarification from Emma. I mean, I think it sounds like you might want to wordsmith some things, but I guess what I heard is agreement on the overall priorities and really good progress on the specific activities under each one. I'm not sure if you're fully ready to make a motion on that whole thing, or if it's just the priorities themselves.
I think the motion is to agree to the priorities, the big priorities, and then submit a draft work plan to the supervisor based on the bylaws. I think it's within like 30, or I don't know the number of days. I'll have to get back to you what the bylaws say.
Yeah, it's a working document essentially. So let's vote on it and move forward.
Yeah, it's not set in stone. You're right, Juan Carlos. This is a working document, the work plan, but you're agreeing to those four, the three priorities, and then within that, what are your plan? What the outcome you're hoping to achieve?
Thank you. So can I have a motion that we move forward on these street plans and report out quarterly? Motions on the floor.
Make the motion that we move forward with this working work.
Right.
I'll do roll call vote. Vice Chair George Salmon,
Yes.
Councilmember Kathleen Daly, Councilmember Ever Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks Esser,
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly Parisi.
Yes.
You're fine, sorry. Councilmember Beatrice Orozco. Chair Juan Carlos Prado.
Yes.
Motion passes with the number of 7 yes votes.
Okay, great, awesome. If there are no other public comments, then we will move on to report outs. District 4. There's Josh, the man of the evening.
I know it's 9 o'clock, so I'll make this quick.
Uh-oh, working overtime.
It's a couple of updates. Our office, next Monday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. we'll be hosting office hours at the satellite office located on Second Avenue and Middlefield. Our inaugural District 4 newsletter also came out last Monday. If you guys are not subscribed, it's available on our District 4 website, where you can also subscribe for future newsletters. And then next Tuesday, January 28th, there will be a board meeting. The agenda should be out and accessible through the county website. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you. Yeah.
We used to just get the newsletter automatically. We used to, right?
If you previously subscribe, I mean, if you were already a subscriber, you're automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're not, go through our District 4 website and you can subscribe there.
Okay, anything from the executive
Quick question
office?
for Josh, the board meeting on the 28th, is that the first after they've all been sworn in? Or is this the first board meeting for supervisors?
No.
Okay.
This will probably be the third meeting, yes.
Anything from the executive office's report?
Emma, is there any updates?
Nope, not on my end.
Okay, council members report. Ever, do you have anything to report out this evening?
I don't have a report, although I just want to mention I guess I'd like to keep us reminded of the importance of responding to public comment, even if it's just, granting residents the courtesy of acknowledging their public comment. I think it would be important to assign, that role to one of us. Just so that the residents, participate and get a sense of, acknowledgement, because oftentimes, people provide public comment and this, it just lingers in limbo. I'm thinking, for example, about the school's principal, his comment, and so just acknowledging, we continue working on it, and if we know the answer, obviously by all means the answer, but I think it's important to keep on working on, or thinking about that. We may need to put it on the agenda to fully discuss it and see the alternatives.
Okay, thank you. I agree. George, anything tonight?
Nothing significant.
Okay, Kathleen? Brooks? Kelly?
No.
Beatriz? No. And I do not. Having no other comments, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
You need to do roll call. Okay. Just aye. 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 Aye.